So the second question is, what is a lesson you're glad you learned early on? So I'll go first. A lesson I learned early on is to get comfortable with the long process. Like we knew when we were dreaming that, like we knew in the back of our mind it's not something that's gonna come overnight. Like it's gonna take work. It's gonna be a process. So we had to internalize that it's not going to be a race. It's going to be a marathon. It's gonna be something long term. And you know, we had to really remind ourselves of that, saying, oh, let's say we dreamed of like, oh, like we wanted to reach that in like 6 months or a year, but in reality it will take much longer. So we would say things like, inshallah, in 5 years, in 10 years, and we just do the work. So I think that's one thing that I feel like we internalized early on, that this is not something that is going to take short term. Like all of our dreams is going to require some long term, and eventually, inshallah, it will come into fruition.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you. For me, the lesson I learned is a little bit of a spin-off of yours. And it's not to be attached to the outcome, but to really kind of give yourself to the process. Like with anything new, any profession, any hobby, it will definitely take time to get the results that you want. And whatever you envision, it will never become that. You know, it might become something more grand, it might become something different, but just that it won't be something that you visioned. So I think it's very important, in order for you to kind of like keep your sanity and to keep going, to not attach yourself to the outcome, at least not in the beginning, but to, you know, building a discipline, habit, and just kind of like, yeah, giving yourself to the process.
What I learned is not to wait for outside validation and motivation.
Say that again.
Not to wait for outside validation and motivation.
Okay.
One more time? I'm just kidding.
Not to wait for outside validation and motivation.
Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory, but and a part of outside, when I say motivation, is even getting feedback on social media. You know, checking your likes, checking how many people saw it, but how come they saw it, they're not engaging, and trying to plan everything you're doing, especially, you know, your creative inputs, like everything you're trying to build. You're like, okay, I'm gonna base all of this off of the feedback I'm getting on social media. And motivation is the same thing. Like, you cannot wait for other people to tell you, hey, I like your vision, keep going, keep working hard, I love how you're doing things like this. Give yourself a chance to try it out, you know? Don't always welcome people's feedback, and don't always, like, you know, seek people's motivation. Sometimes you have to figure out, how do I get motivated, you know?
Be your own driving force.
Exactly. So those are my two biggest lessons.
Okay, so the biggest lesson that I learned is being okay when things don't go your way. You know, we had this, I guess, expectations that when we plan out something, that we expected it to go the way that we planned out. But time and time again, that's not what happened. Like, we would plan something out and it would be the complete opposite, and that would be something very difficult for us to grapple with. We would say we're going north, but we ended up going south. And that was always what happened time and time and time again. And it was Allah trying to teach us a lesson that things will not go your way. And when that happens, what are you going to do? Are you going to fall apart? Or are you going to be like, oh, okay.
And we used to fall apart.
We used to.
Yeah.
But it's something that, alhamdulillah, we learned early on to pivot, to change course, you know, to switch lanes when things don't go your way, you know, shoulder check.
Okay.
So I feel like that's a very important lesson that we learned early on, because now when we make a plan with that expectations, with the knowledge, and the mindset that things might not go the way that we're planning things out to be, but even if that plan does not work out, inshallah, we'll be okay, and we will do something different. We'll pivot, but we won't fall apart the way that we used to.
What do we tell the people to do?
Subscribe and like and turn on the post notifications.
And comment. Let us know what you're thinking. We want to hear from you. Comment.
And also find all of our social media handles in the description box, and check out our websites.
Abāyo House everywhere.
AbāyoHouse.com and @Abāyo House everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter.
Okay, guys, are you ready? Abāyo House.
Abāyo